So in this video, we're going to step away for a minute from the CURADO versus TATULA series of testing, and we're going to bring out a couple of reels that haven't seen a video in a while, or been in a video in a while, and that's the Metanium MGL, the JDM version, and the Chronarch MGL. Now these reels are a little bit on the high end, especially the Metanium MGL, as it retails for $420 here, while the Chronarch retails for $280. And just for fun, I'm going to include another MGL reel that hasn't been in a video in a while, and that is the very excellent Casitas MGL. I think I've only tested this thing once, and it really exceeded my expectations. So, why not throw it in there just to shake things up a little bit. So if you're new to the channel, I always weigh the spools, even though I've weighed them before. If you're new to my videos, I'm going to weigh them again just for any new viewers. Okay, so I've got all the spools out, and I'm going to give you guys a look at them. Here's the Chronarch MGL spool. It's got the side porting that the MGL spools are known for. This is 150 capacity spool. As you can see, it's pretty deep. Here's the Metanium MGL spool. Now Shimano Japan lists this as only a 70 line capacity spool. As you can see the ports, and it's got the silent tune bearing on the spool that the others do not have. Here is the Casitas MGL spool. Now ironically, the Casitas MGL spool, despite being the cheapest reel here at only about, I think you can pick them up for about 130 bucks now, it's got the best looking spool with the red accents and anodization, and this is a 100 capacity spool. I don't know if you can see the difference, any difference at all, but the Metanium spool does seem to be a tad shallower, so it's going to hold less line. Alright, so let's turn the scale on. Okay, now the Chronarch MGL spool weighs in at 13.6 grams. The Metanium MGL spool weighs in at 14 grams. Oops. But you have to remember it's got the bearing, which probably weighs about a gram. So it's probably around a 13 gram spool without the bearing, I'm assuming. And the Casitas spool weighs in at 12.2 grams, so it says ultra light. Now these all have the new Shimano style, the new style SVS Infinity brakes. So I'm gonna put these guys through phase 1 of the standardized test, which is going to be the lipless crankbait. So we're gonna get out on the field, string them up with line, and see what happens. Okay, so I'm out here with the Metanium MGL. I have the internal brakes set to 3 on, just like the CURADO K. And I have the external dial set to 2. And I have the spool tension pretty loose, so it falls pretty fast. And of course the lipless crankbait. So let's go. 156 5 inches. $163 1. $159 3 inches. $155 5 inches. Okay, so next up is the Chronarch MGL. Inside I also have 3 brakes on and the external dial is set to 1.5. I have a pretty loose spool tension, so it's a really fast fall. Of course, the lipless crankbait. So let's go. $162 2 inches. $159 3 inches. $156 8. $158 3. $158 10. Okay, so last but not least, we have the Casitas MGL. Just like the Metanium and the Chronarch, it's got 3 brakes on inside. An external dial. Right now I'm gonna set it between 3 and 2. And it's loose spool tension with a pretty fast fall. Of course, the lipless crank. So let's go. $163 even. 156.9. Fuck did it go? Okay, so back from the casting field, as you can see by the results, the casting average for the Chronarch and the Metanium were virtually identical at 159 feet, even though the Metanium's average was 159 feet and 2 inches. So I'm going to call that a wash. Now the Casitas was on its way to probably matching them until the lure broke off, as you can see. So a couple of things to note here. First, I want to show you guys that apparently the Metanium spool has more portholes. There's 8 versus 6 for the Chronarch MGL, and the same thing goes for the Casitas. So yeah, for some reason they gave the Casitas and the Metanium MGL spools more ports, and I do believe the holes in the middle are bigger on the Metanium and the Casitas as well, if my memory serves me correctly. So we're gonna weigh these spools to see how much weight they gained. Okay, first up is the Casitas, and I believe it weighed in at 12.2 grams. Okay, so 19.8 grams, so it gained about 7 grams of line, 7.5 grams of line, more or less. The Metanium spool, I believe it was 14 grams with the bearing, and you're looking at 22.4, so you're looking at about 21.4 grams. That gained about 8 or 9 grams. And the Chronarch looks like 22.63. So that gained exactly 9 grams. So the spool weight between the three they were within 2 grams of each other. So probably the reason why they virtually equaled each other in casting performance when it came to this heavy lipless crankbait. Now, a couple of things to note when reeling in the cast. The Chronarch MGL actually felt a tad smoother than the Metanium, and that surprised me very much. There wasn't a lot in it, but it did feel a little bit more refined on the retrieve, reeling in the lure versus the Metanium, which is already super smooth. So I don't know if they have the same amount of lubrication inside, but I believe the handle tolerance is just a tad bit better on the Chronarch. Of course, they both felt smoother than the lower end Casitas. Now, for some reason, 3 breaks on seems to work the best for this particular brake system for this particular lure. As you can see by the CURADO K video, I also use 3 brakes on there as well. Now, this is when I use a loose spool tension. Now, one thing, if you guys remember, the CURADO, I believe it averaged 168 feet. So it basically beat out these 2 higher end reels by about 10 feet. So it makes you wonder if a heavier spool is going to cast the heavier baits better than the lighter spools, because Yeah, the Chronarch spool, I'm sorry, the CURADO spool, I believe was close to 30 grams filled with line because it has more line capacity and it was heavier from the outset. So maybe the lighter spooled reels will separate themselves when we hit the lighter lures like the 1/4 ounce and the Senko. But yeah, I guess we're gonna have to test that theory out. So as it stands, I can't give any points to the Casitas because the lure broke off. I don't know if I'm gonna retest it or not. But the Metanium will get 9.2 points and the Chronarch will get 9 points. So next up to throw this lipless crankbait are gonna be the DC reels, and that should be fun. So be on the lookout for that. Thanks a lot.